Good morning and welcome to another episode of Unscripted. If you've ever had a day where things started to crumble, they started to go the way that you didn't want them to go, I want you to know that you're not alone. God is preparing you for your blessings. Right before I started off with this episode, things fell off the table, microphone wasn't in place, all these things. But what I want you to know is that God is preparing you for your blessings. And so it's amazing because that's the whole content of Proverbs 25 today, Unscripted. We're going through 3,000-year-old wisdom, and God knew 3,000 years ago that you were going to be dealing with the things that you're dealing with today, but he wanted you to know that he is in control, that he's got you, and that he's going to carry you right through. It's going to be his will, his plan, but the challenging thing is it's going to be his timing. Let's bring in some Red Man real quick from Concrete Jungle. And also make sure that you check out the merch on our website, that you subscribe, comment, turn on the notifications, do a review if you're on Apple, and make sure that you check out the Vibe Room. And if you love this content, you love what we're doing, I've also got the Vibe Community, which is an amazing community that we meet every single week, and we pour into you and lift up your businesses, your leadership, your culture, your systems. So Proverbs 25, corresponding proverb, corresponding day, 3,000-year-old wisdom, applicable today. Let's get it.
Cause we believin', it's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted. This is Proverbs 25. If you saw the commercial, if you're just listening, that music, it resonates with me, and it is the Vibe Room. And what the Vibe Room is a live version of the podcast, and it's going to be coming to a city near you. We're working right now on an LA location. We're working on Carlsbad right now, and we've got Salt Lake City also. And so I just want to encourage you, check out the Vibe Room, check out the merch, check out the community, subscribe, comment, do the notifications, review it. You know what to do. Proverbs 25, corresponding proverb, corresponding day. I was asked by my good friend, David Hamilton. He asked me, he said, why Proverbs? And then I did the thing that I think that, it's probably one of the best things that you could do is when a person asks you a question, ask them that question right back. And see, this guy's a lot wiser than me, and, he's been an inspiration to me, so I looked for counsel. He asked me the question, I asked him right back. He said, why Proverbs? I said, why do you think? And then he gave me his answer. And he said, because it's 3,000-year-old wisdom, and it's inspired word of God. And so for me, it kind of changed the paradigm for me. And this is a thing that I do with my buddy Greg Reed. Big shout out to my friend James Dixon too, one of the top, if not the top motivational speakers in the world. And this message today, I believe, James, is for you because we had a conversation last night and we talked about some things. And one of the main things that we talked about was prepare for God's blessing. And what I want you to realize is that God's blessing is a lot bigger than what we can see. And a lot of times we limit God. We say, based off of all the data, based off of all my past, this is what I could earn, or this is what I deserve, or this is the most I can imagine in this amount. Well, God doesn't feel that way. God is an abundant God, and sometimes we need to get out of the way and allow his blessings to come. But what he wants us to do is prepare for that blessing. So we're going to jump right into the words that we're going to cover today: trust, purify, humble, no limit, faithful, and forgiveness. And this is the things that God does in our life to get us prepared for the incredible blessings that he's going to bring. But he needs to get us prepared. So that's where our focus will become. And so in preparing for the blessing, remember, it's his will, not ours. It's his plan, not ours. And this is the most challenging thing. It's his timing, not ours. You see, my watch that I wear, people get confused on this all the time. And they say, what time is it, Kelly? Or when I ask them, what time is it? They say, you have a watch on. Why don't you just read it? Well, this watch has never been set. It's always set to a different time. And if you can see it right there, it's not on the time that it should be. The reason why is because my pops taught me that I'm on God's time and not man's time, because God's time is always different than man's time. When we want something to happen and when God has it to happen, it's two completely different times. Let's jump right into point number 1. Trust in God. Verse 1 and 2. In verse 1 and 2, it talks about, or actually 2 and 3, it says, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, to search out a matter is the glory of kings. As the heavens are high and the earth is deep, so are the hearts of kings unsearchable. And see, you hear this. It is glory of God to conceal a matter, but to search it out is the glory of kings. A lot of times we want the glory as men or as women. That's what we want. We want that glory because we want to search out these things. What God says is sometimes you just need to chill and allow me to work. In verse 1 and 2, it's there. And in verse 21 and 22, it talks about it also. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. So trust in God. Don't go out and try and say, well, you did this to me, so I'm going to do this back to you. It's not an eye for an eye. It's allow God to work because it'll be his will, his plan, and his timing. You see, my daughter had this happen one time. She came home to me and she said, Daddy, this girl is being so mean to me. And I said, well, I was just about to tell her, you need to stand up for yourself. And then but I just listened to her. And 2 days later, she came back and she said, Daddy, I understand why that little girl was mad. And I said, why? And she said, well, she was mean to me because I found out that her parents were getting divorced. And see, my daughter showed me wisdom in sitting in and realizing that a person that does something to you is not doing it to you. Sometimes they're just challenged in their life. They're having, they have circumstances in their life that caused them to act that way. And so when we allow God to repay and we just love the people, it's amazing what can happen. Point number 2, purification. This is probably one of my favorite verses, and it comes in verse 4, Proverbs 25, verse 4. It says, remove the dross from the silver, and the silversmith can produce a vessel. You see, the dross is the impurities in the silver. So they take the silver ore, they put it in a furnace, and they heat it up to the highest level. And what happens is all the impurities come to the top. They take a big stick, they scrape off the dross, and it becomes sterling silver. Well, this is a thing that when God is going to bless you, he's got to purify you. So my question to you in the purification process is, what is he removing from you? I just had something happen this morning. I just had something right before the episode. I looked into, and some of you guys do this, you look into your bank account and there's a company that extracted money from me that wasn't supposed to extract money from me. But what is God removing? It's amazing because this is the second time that exact same company did it, but this time I didn't react as strong because it had happened before. And you know who was wise and who calmed me down? My wife. So what is he removing right now from you in this intense heat that you're going through, this intense heat that's happening through circumstance in your life? Point number 3, one plants, one waters, but God brings the increase. And I wanted to put the other word in there. Only God brings the increase. One plants, another waters, but only God brings the increase. In verse 6 and 7, it says, do not exalt yourself in the king's presence. Do not claim a place among his great men. It is better for him to say, come up here, than for you to humiliate, or for him to humiliate you before his nobles. Imagine that. We do something, we beat our chest. We do something, we want everybody to know. We do something, we do the dance. I saw this happen. Oh, I'm head topping you. I'm doing the gritty after I score, whatever it is. But imagine when you let other people praise you. Imagine when you just do the work, you stay humble, and you let other people praise you. And especially when you allow God to praise you. It's incredible this way. And so in verse number 24, it says this: better to live in the corner of a roof than to share a house with a quarrelsome wife. You see, sometimes the hype, the things that we say, oh man, I need the credit, that is the quarrelsome wife. That is the thing that goes back and forth inside of us and beats us up a lot because it tells us, you did this, you need this credit. And what God is saying is, no, I'm preparing you for a larger blessing than you could see. Let's go on to point number 4. In point number 4, it is righteousness. So when we look at righteousness, righteousness has no limit. Let me say it again. Righteousness has no limit. In verse 11, it says, like apples of gold in settings of silver is a ruling rightly given. See, righteousness has no limit. Apples of gold in settings of silver. Imagine that. A lot of people are like, well, I just take the gold apples. That's completely fine. But imagine if you set them in silver. When you prepare for the blessing, when you create righteousness in your life, it doesn't mean that you are self-righteous. It means righteousness, just doing the right thing. How do we do the right thing? We stay in communication with God. How do we stay in communication with him? We have a conversation. It's back and forth. You talk to him, spend time with him. It's not just through religion and rituals, not just through reading the word, but by experiencing his presence. And so in verse 26, it also talks about this. In verse 26, it says, like a muddied spring or a polluted well are the righteous who give way to the wicked. There's no limit to righteousness. Because a lot of times what we think is, I've done the right thing for long enough. Maybe just do this other thing. I see other people doing it and getting a reward. There's no limit to righteousness. Continue to do the right thing. Point number 5. Point number 5 is to speak life. And speak life, you hear this over and over in Proverbs. Verse number 13, like a snow-cooled drink at harvest is a trustworthy messenger to one who sends him. He refreshes the spirit of his master. In verse 25, it says, like cold water to a weary soul is good news from a distant land. Speak life. And in verse 15, it says, through patience a ruler can be persuaded, and a gentle tongue can break a bone. Speak life, speak life, speak life, speak life. Point number 6, talk is cheap. In verse number 14, it says, like clouds and wind without rain is someone who boasts of gifts never given. This is what I call Vegas. This was when I lived in Vegas for so long, we would say that person is Vegas. That person has a lot of talk, a whole lot of hat and no cattle. Big hat, no cattle. Talk is cheap. And make sure that when you speak, it comes from your heart and it has substance. Point number 7, as we finish up today, is don't wear out your welcome. In verse 16 and 17, it says, if you find honey, eat just enough, too much of it, and you will vomit. Seldom set foot in your neighbor's house, too much of you, and they will hate you. And then in verse 27, it says, it is not good to eat too much honey, nor is it honorable to search out matters that are too deep. Don't wear out your welcome. Don't wear out your welcome in trying to, when you see something that is awesome. I do this with ice cream all the time. Man, that Ben & Jerry's is good. Then I eat the whole container. And guess how I feel afterwards? Not that great. Eat just enough. God will provide the exact right enough at the exact right time for when you need it. He is working on your behalf. God is working on your behalf, so prepare for the blessing. Let's review quickly. So as we go through, trust in God. Allow the purifying process. One plants, another waters, but only God brings the increase. Righteousness has no limit. Speak life to people. Talk is cheap. Make sure that you speak life to people, and then don't wear out your welcome. And see, all those things, God is just preparing you for the blessing that he has for you. And God is working on your behalf even when you don't see him. Even when you don't see him. See, our job is to focus on him and to simply prepare for his blessing. So I want to encourage every single one of you out there that is having challenges right now, that the circumstances seem like they're overwhelming, like they're jumping over the top of you. And I just want you to ask the question, what is God purifying? Where is God purifying me? What is he taking out of my life? What is he preparing for me right now? Not that he's punishing me, but what is he preparing me for? And let's get prepared for that blessing, because the blessings that he has are exceedingly abundantly greater than anything that we could ever even fathom. Proverbs 25, 3,000-year-old wisdom, applicable today in your leadership, your culture, your systems. Make sure that you subscribe, you do the notifications, do a review, check out the merch, and check out the Vibe Room. I love you all. This has been another episode of Unscripted. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.